design that has the Reese's wrapper and then 2 cups. One that is still in the wrapper because nobody's eaten it yet, and one that is out of the wrapper and somebody has taken a bite and there's a couple little crumbs on the nail. I love this design. I did the first candy bar design that's kind of in this style that was a Snickers about, I don't know, a month or so ago, 2 months ago maybe, I don't know, time flies. So if you like this one and you want to see the Snickers one, if you missed it, I'll put a link to it in the description box below, so check for that, and I will see you guys next time. Bye! To start out this nail, I'm going to begin with an overlay of a milky white acrylic. The reason to use a milky white acrylic versus just a straight up white is I think it looks a little bit softer and it isn't quite as extreme in the background, but if you only have a classic extreme white, then that works too. And then we're going to file this nail into shape with our E-file to make sure it is nice and smooth. Now on a silicone mat, I'm going to be painting a rectangle of orange gel polish. This is going to be the start of my little Reese's peanut butter wrapper. So you have that orange. Just try to do a single coat, make your rectangle as rectangular as possible. It does not have to be perfect. Then apply another very thin coat. Try to make these coats as thin as absolutely possible. And now with some brown gel polish, we're going to be painting the base of our logo. So the reason to try to create as thin a layers as possible when you're doing a wrapper like this is every time you add a layer of gel polish, it's going to get less and less flexible. And the flexibility is paramount to making sure that it'll wrap and look like a wrapper. So it'll wrap around and it'll curve and it'll bend and you can manipulate it the way that a wrapper would be manipulated. So if you have too many layers or they're too thick, it's not going to move the way that you need it to move. And as you can see in the end of my video, my wrapper ended up tearing. You can't even tell in the very end because it's easy enough to fix that problem. But it is just something to keep in mind that when you're working on something like this and you do want to keep the flexibility, is that you just want to try to minimize the amount of layers that you do. You also want to try and use a brand that is very flexible just to start with. So if you are working with a brand that you just know, from wearing it yourself, it just isn't quite as flexible, then it's not going to give you anywhere near as good results for this. I am using almost exclusively or possibly exclusively Madam Glam products, and I'll put all the color names in the description box below, just because I know that they are very soft. And if you are somebody that really likes to get your gel polish off of Amazon and use some of the different Amazon brands, as I like to think of them, those ones are typically, in my experience, not flexible hardly at all. And so they're just not going to move quite as easily. So using a high-end brand, I know that shellac, I really don't like working with shellac just as far as their texture goes, but that's really flexible. OPI is fairly flexible. They're not as pigmented. I'm trying to think of other brands offhand that I just know have more flexibility to them. But I know Madam Glam is always my go-to because they've got the pigment, the colors don't spread too much when you're painting details, and you have the flexibility that is really quite necessary. So on our logo so far, we have Reese's written out in the middle of our wrapper. Down below it, we have like the side view of what a peanut butter cup is. So like a trapezoid with a zigzaggy top. And then in the upper corner, we have a little Reese's peanut butter cup from the top view with a bite taken out. And now after that's been cured, I'm going to take some yellow gel paint and I'm going to be filling in the center of the letters of the word Reese's. So instead of trying to, outline every letter, it's so much easier to do this part in layers. So you want to do the first layer a little bit wider than you want the letters to be, and they can even be a little bit more bubbly, it's like a bubble letter, and then do the finer, really more detailed lettering on the inside. After you have the word filled in fairly well, I'm going to flash cure it, and then still using my yellow, I'm going to write 2 PB cups in the flat peanut butter cup underneath it. So you could, if you wanted to, you could write out peanut butter cups. It's so tiny. I didn't think that was going to be worth it. And so for me, just writing 2 PB cups is a great way to abbreviate that particular part. Then flash cure it again. And now going up to the peanut butter cup that's the top view, that one has a bite taken out of it. So I'm going to use kind of a creamy-ish yellow beige brown color. I'm going to be filling in the little bit of the peanut butter filling that you could see. And now with some black gel paint, I'm going to be doing my outlines where, they're necessary. And for me, I just really love the crispness of an outline. So I'm going to outline both of my peanut butter cups. That is one of those optional items. If you don't want to do that, then by no means bother with it. Just skip that part. And then above the word Reese's, I'm going to write milk. This is the same thing. Instead of writing milk chocolate, I just wrote milk. And then I'm going to apply a very thin layer of gel top coat to the full thing. I'm actually going back over it a few times to pick up extra top coat so it's not too thick. Cure it again, and then we can peel it off of that silicone mat. On a nail form backing, I'm going to be sculpting my peanut butter cups with layers. So the first layer is going to be brown acrylic, that's for the bottom. So I'm going to set down 2 beads of that brown, pat them out, press them out, and then after they're done to this particular point, if you want to let them set up for a little bit, that probably isn't a bad idea. As long as they're starting to turn matte though, they are going to be okay. And these circles do not have to be perfect. They can be a little bit not circular or a little thicker on one end or a little thinner. But once you have them as your base, then you're going to take a golden, like a warm gold color, and we're going to set that down in the middle of our peanut butter cups and press it out. That's going to be for the peanut butter layer. And the one that I'm using actually has kind of a shimmer to it, very slight shimmer. And that, I think, once you carve out the bite out of the one of them, it gives it a little more texture and does make it look slightly more like a peanut butter cup or the peanut butter filling, just with that little bit of glitter in it. I'm going to do a second layer of the filling to make sure it has enough height to it. So you wouldn't actually have to do the filling in both of the peanut butter cups unless you plan to take bite marks out of both of the cups. But for my, personal use, I just decided to do them the same because then I wouldn't have to remember which one is which, and I could decide which one I wanted out of the wrapper and which one I wanted in the wrapper in case I happen to like one better. But if you didn't want to take the time and do them this way for both of them, you could just do one of them with solid brown acrylic and forget about filling it. So now the last final layer of acrylic to these peanut butter cups is going to be the chocolate that goes up and around the top of it and down the sides. So set down a slightly larger bead of brown acrylic on top of each of them and then leave it and let it start to set up. Then using the the belly of your brush, we're going to press that out and try to get as flat of a surface as we can, and then go and wrap that little bit of acrylic that's sort of flowing down the sides around it so that you seal up all of the edges. To finish this off, I'm going to sculpt a few little crumbs of my warm gold and brown acrylic on the nail form backing right next to it. So there's 3 little specks of the warm gold color, which looks so much darker on camera, and then a couple little dots of the brown acrylic on the ends, because if you take a bite of the peanut butter cup and you set it down, chances are you are going to get crumbs on the table or napkin or plate or whatever it is that you're using. And so now we get to file our peanut butter cups, and I'm going to just first start by filing them so that their edges are at a slight angle because, like I said, with the one, it's a trapezoid, so the angle or the sides angle down. So using a hand file, just very gently file the edges to give them that angled shape. And then switching over to an E-file, I'm going to use a narrow bit to carve the little grooves in the sides. So this is almost like drawing little lines around the outside. Take your time with it and have your E-file on a fairly low speed so you don't carve in too deep. And just go around the outside doing bit by bit all the way until you fill it in. And after you have it like that, I'm going to remove the dust with a fairly stiff nail brush. As you can see, it has just that perfect little peanut butter cup shape to it. And then you're going to take and you're going to carve out a bite out of one of your peanut butter cups. So that you can turn up the speed on your E-file and really just gouge out a few little chomp marks like so. And then once you're happy with it, take the tip of that E-file and sort of dot it to create a texture of the peanut butter filling. Remove the dust once again, and there we go. Now going back to our label, we're going to trim the sides so that it's nice and straight. And the one end I had a little too much label left over, and then we can gently kind of work it into the bent shape of the label. And once you have it, so it's got sort of a bent place already worked into it, then you can glue one of your peanut butter cups, the one that does not have a bite mark, inside the label. So put some glue on the back of it and then wrap it up and then hold it down so that the glue sticks. Ideally, the glue will stick. For me, it took 2 tries because me and nail glue do not get along. And I'm pretty sure I ended up gluing myself to this too. So we're just going to glue it down. Yep, there it is. See? Glued myself to the thing. Unbelievable. And then we're going to glue the other end shut, so the one that's farther away from the peanut butter cup. And I'm going to use the help of an offset tweezers for that, just to keep it really nice and pinched. And I don't know why I said one side. We're going to glue both sides shut. You're going to glue the whole thing shut, so it's like a nice little packet. And then after you have it all glued shut, and the glue is not, tacky anymore, it's fully set up, we're going to cut open the wrapper and we're going to rip it, which is so nerve-wracking, and mine broke, which is fine. But it's so nerve-wracking to rip something that you just spent so long painting, but it's necessary. So then we're going to glue that wrapper onto the nail. We're going to glue that little piece that ripped off down too, because we don't want to leave any of it out. And then glue the other, just so the wrappers looks a little bit more open so you can see into it easier. We want to make sure that it is fully ripped open and you can see the peanut butter cup that is still inside. And then you're going to glue down the one that has the bite taken out of it. A little bit more nail glue down, place that, let that
glue grab hold of it. And then you're also going to need to glue down your little crumbs. So we've got the 3 teeny tiny little crumbs, and I think it's easier a lot of times to dip something into some nail glue instead of trying to place the nail glue down. So instead of, adding a swipe like I did, I a lot of times think it's easier to have a drip of nail glue on a nail form backing or a palette and then dip my little pieces in. But either way, obviously will work. And now applying a layer of gel sealer over the background, we're going to make the background look nice and shiny and glossy. After you have that on, cure it, and this nail is done. You don't have to worry about top coating your peanut butter cups. They are just good to go. And that is it. This design is so much fun. Like I said in the intro, if you want to see the one that I did that was a Snickers, I will put a link to it in the description box below, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.